All right, our conversation flow is good enough now. We can, of course, keep tuning it, and we are going to do that. But I want to make one feature work, which is very important, which is the actual sending of the link so the customer can book an appointment. And to do that, we need to hook up ElevenLabs with a service that can send SMS. And what we'll be using is, of course, GoHighLevel for this. So the system will basically work like this. We are going to have ElevenLabs, where the customer is talking to the voice agent. When they are ready to book, ElevenLabs needs to be able to send over a signal to GoHighLevel, where inside of GoHighLevel, we will then send the SMS. And it needs to be able to do this instantly with no delay, so the customer sees the text message. Maybe what we can do is, like, if they haven't booked after, let's say, an hour, then we send them a follow-up so they remember to book. And if they haven't booked after, let's do 5 hours, then we send them another follow-up, and we can maybe send another one after 24 hours. Like right now, we have someone that we have talked to on the phone that is interested. So setting up follow-ups will be important. And in those follow-up, we can mention things like, remember that the voucher expires, etc. We have some urgency because we told them in the call that the voucher only lasts for 7 days. We have some urgency that we can push inside of the follow-ups. So let's actually build this out. To get the AI to be able to send a text message, we need to connect it to GoHighLevel, like I explained before. The way we do that is using the tools inside of ElevenLabs. If we click on Tools, click Add Tool, and click Webhook, it allows us to create a custom tool where we can send data to wherever we want. And the LLM, the large language model, will then decide what to send in that request and also when to send it. So there's two things we need to get right here. Of course, we need to set up the tool correctly, so it sends the SMS correctly. We also need to make sure that the AI knows when to send the text, so it only sends it after the client has agreed to book an appointment. So what we're going to do is that we are going to go to Make first, create a new scenario. You could also use initn or Zapier, whatever you wanted for this. Make is the easiest to connect into GoHighLevel. That's why I'm using Make now. We can then create a trigger inside of Make, call it Custom Webhook, and just create a new webhook that we call send SMS. No API key needed. Click Save. We probably do need an API key now when I'm thinking about it. Otherwise, someone will be able to just like spam SMS. Let me create an API key right quick. I've added an API key because we don't want anyone just to be able to hit this endpoint and then send a bunch of SMS from our GoHighLevel account. That's going to rack up an SMS bill. So we add an API key like this, and then we click Save. And now we get a webhook that's called Send This SMS, and we get this webhook URL right here. So we are going to copy this one. We're going to go inside of ElevenLabs. We're going to paste it right here. Then for the method, we're going to use post. For the name, we're going to call it Send SMS. Sends an SMS to the caller. For the headers, we then need to use the API key. The type, we're going to use secret. For the name, we're going to call it X make API key. For the secret, it's where we insert the API key that we just created inside of make. So I'm just going to call this make API key. And then we're going to insert this value. Let me do that right quick. There we go. Now we have the X make API key in the header, which means that we should now be able to authenticate the request. In the description, we need to clearly describe what this actually does, what this tool call does, and when to call it. So I'm going to write sends an SMS to the caller with the booking link. Use this tool when the caller wants to book an appointment. The data type will be a string. The identifier will be phone number. Value type is going to be a dynamic variable because now we can insert the system called number right here and then click add tool. Need to change the name to send_SMS, and now it should be able to work. Cool, so we got the AI to trigger the tool. What you can see is that the phone number is right now empty. This is because we are testing it inside of the web version, so there's no phone number to send. But when we're actually connecting this to a real phone number, then the phone number will show right here. So what we can do now is that we can take this phone number, we can get it back into GoHighLevel, and for that, as you can see, we're using make.com. We then want to take this phone number inside of GoHighLevel and send that SMS. But before we do that, we need to add an additional step where we search up the contact, find the right contact, and then send them the text message. So let's do that. In order to take the signal that we now have from ElevenLabs into Make and to get that into GoHighLevel, we need to do one more step first. And that is that we need to find the contact inside of GoHighLevel first before we can trigger the SMS. The reason for that is that we need to know, okay, what contact should we actually send this SMS to? And in order to find the contact, we're going to do a phone number lookup. So inside of make, we are basically going to, we have the webhook step right here. This webhook is basically what grabs the signal. Then we are going to look up the contact inside of GoHighLevel in order to find it. And then at the end, we are going to trigger GoHighLevel, and I'll show you how to do that in a sec. But we're basically going to tell GoHighLevel to now send the SMS. And in order to do that, I think we're going to be using a tag. The tag, let's call that booking link sent. Awesome, so let's build this out. The first thing we have right here is the webhook node. Next thing we want is to use the GoHighLevel app. That's one of the reasons to why we use make.com and not something like init. It is that there's a native GoHighLevel app inside of make.com, which makes it a lot easier. I'm going to search for search contacts, which basically searches through a GoHighLevel sub account in order to find a specific contact. So we're going to click add right here. Then I'm going to choose GoHighLevel location auth. Call this one. This is what their GoHighLevel sub account is called. Click save. This is going to open up the window where I can authenticate. Click login. There we go. If we go back into make, you will now see it'll say authenticated in a sec. Then we can open this window. This is the things that we give it access to. We click next. Then I choose the sub account that we want to integrate. This is the one that's called Forex funded. And we're basically going to use the phone number in order to search up the contact. So I'm going to set the limit to 1. We only want 1 contact returned. And then I'm going to set the query to this phone number and then click save. So what this step does is that this step takes the phone number, finds the contact inside of GoHighLevel. And now we want to update the contact. We basically want to tell GoHighLevel that we should send this contact an SMS. To do that, we use update a contact. We use the same sub account that we just connected to just before. Then we insert the contact ID, which we are going to get from search contact. So I can insert contact ID right here. We don't have to change anything else because all of the information is fetched from the contact ID. We can scroll down until we find tags. And then we're actually going to want to create a tag inside of GoHighLevel. So inside of the sub account that we're in right now, that's called Forex funded, I'm going to go down and create a tag. I'm going to call this booking link sent, like this. I'm going to copy it, click create booking link sent. That's going to create the tag and click apply. Then I'm going to go back into make.com. I'm just going to scroll down until where it says tags. And now it's fetching for the tags and I can find the one that we just created, which is this one, booking link sent. So basically what this flow is doing is that we are catching the signal from ElevenLabs, from our agent that says, now we need to send this contact an SMS. We are searching for the specific contact inside of our GoHighLevel sub account. And then we are updating the contact that we have now added this link, booking link sent. And I'm going to show you why this is smart in just a second. So when it's done, we now click save. And now we can click on immediately as it arrives and turn on this scenario. The next thing we want to do is that we want to head under GoHighLevel and then into automation. And then create a new automation because we are almost finished with this tool now. Now we are correctly sending it from ElevenLabs, we're sending it to make.com, and we are finding the contact, and we are sending it to GoHighLevel, right? We added a tag. The next thing we need to do is just the last thing, which is that we need to say, okay, from GoHighLevel, we need to send a text message to this contact that we have already found. To do that, we need to create an automation inside of Forex funded. I'm going to create a new folder so I don't mess up the automations that they already have. And I'm going to call this AI agents. I'm actually going to call it Shiney.ai agents. Shiney is our agency, right? Create a workflow, start from scratch. Then I'm going to call it send booking link. The trigger will be tag added because we just updated the flow to add the tag as the last step. So if we now create a trigger inside of GoHighLevel that says added tag, and then we find the one that's called booking link sent, this workflow will now trigger when this tag is added. And now we can click save the trigger. The next thing we want to do is to send the SMS. So we search for SMS, click send SMS right here, choose a template. We don't need a load template. Then we just write hi, and here we're going to have the first name, contact. Here is the link to book with the $100 off voucher. It's valid for 7 days. We'll see you soon. Then we need to insert the link right here. So for now, I'm just going to have a placeholder, just link. I'll be showing you how we can create the link in just a second. Here we have the link to book. We click save action and now it is saved. So when the voice agent now sends the signal, it's going to go from ElevenLabs over to make, from make over to GoHighLevel, trigger this flow and send this SMS.